All right. Hey, everybody. Today we're going to be going through a local success story of one brick and mortar business owner who leveraged the internet to grow his business. So today we have with us Dr. Ben Atkins, who is a local chiropractor. Hey, Dr. Ben.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. So I'm just going to kick us off with some questions here. And the first one is, can you tell me a little bit about your history and why you started your business?
I'm just was just like a lot of people out there. I wanted to get out there, help people, make a living for myself, and so I opened up a chiropractic clinic. Actually, I'd gone to school for several years to get to do that. Way too long, it seems like. But I'd gone to school for several years, and the whole point was when I got out, I was going to be able to do something that I loved. I was going to be able to help a lot of people. And I was going to be able to make an impact on a community. And that's the thing. At the same time, with all those things, make money and make a good living. And that was the key is how do I get in there and make a good living, but also do it in a way that I felt was great towards our community. And, it was a good give and take. And so that was the big thing is I didn't have anything too crazy. I just knew that, hey, I loved this type of business that I was in. I knew that I wanted to help the community and I knew I wanted to make a really good living with it. And I didn't mind working hard, just like I think a lot of the folks that are out there with brick and mortar businesses. I didn't mind working hard. I just wanted to see a good result from it and it not be such a stinking uphill battle. So that's why I started. Just real simple, wanted to help people, wanted to make a good living doing it.
I love it. I love it. So tell me about what traditional media did you use when you first started marketing that business?
I looked around and at traditional media and I was thinking about, okay, what can I do? I didn't have a lot of money though. So, you look at radio, you look at TV, you look at the newspaper, in just about every town that's out there, those are some options and they have some built-in audiences. Now, lately, some of those audiences have started to go down a little bit, but still, those were the big players for me. And another one at the time when I first started was Yellow Book. I think every business owner, whether they're just getting started now or getting started before, having the yellow book or the yellow pages in front of you is a big thing. And the reason that's such a big thing is because you always have a yellow book person coming in to try to sell you something in that. But that's what I was looking at. The problem is I didn't have a big budget for those things. And even if I had a big budget, I was starting to see that with a lot of my contemporaries, other people in my town, those traditional media things, while still effective, were not nearly as effective as they had been 10 years before. And so traditional media for me was a problem, not only because the effectiveness was starting to go down from everything that I'd seen, but because I didn't really have a whole lot of money to spend on that, especially when I was first starting out. The first few years, it was more of just getting out there and doing it in a way that I could do it without having to spend a lot of money. So traditional media was really, really hard. And I had to really look around for some other options and some stuff that maybe wasn't so traditional.
Okay. So tell me a little bit about what was not traditional. I'm assuming that you're talking about the internet. So tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I looked around, and as I said, the traditional media wasn't an option. So I started looking at the internet, and started looking at really what could I do with the internet to grow my business, because what I had really done, I couldn't afford a lot of the media stuff. So I'd done some hustle stuff. I belonged to the chamber. I was going to local events. I was trying to volunteer my time when I wasn't working in my clinic to, get out there and be in front of people. But that required a lot of my time. And when I was busy in my office, I couldn't do that. So, I looked at the internet as a way that I could really get out there in front of a ton of people without having to actually be outside of my office. And that's the thing. At the time, I didn't mind being in front of a computer. I didn't mind having my staff in front of a computer. And I didn't mind really getting in there and putting the time in on the internet. And just so that, we're clear as to what that means. At the time, I was looking at, with the internet, what were people doing to find businesses? And that's how it all kind of started for me. What were people doing to find businesses online, businesses like mine? And the big ones at the time, and really the big ones that are, still today, were Google and Facebook. How do you find a business when you don't really know what you're supposed to be looking for? And so, it doesn't matter if I'm in my town, if I'm going to a new town, I start off with one of those two. Typically, it just depends on what I have open at the time. If I'm in Facebook, I'll just do a Facebook search, and I'll quite honestly, I'll just jump in there and I'll say, hey, what are the bars or the restaurants or the chiropractic offices or the dental offices in this town? So that's a big way that I do it. But also with Google, it's just going in and doing a search for dentist in this town. And so what I started to see is everybody around me, they were going to those two means overwhelmingly. Now, there's tons of other things out there now, but still the vast market share of people were searching for help on Google and Facebook. And it's just because they spend a lot of time on those places anyway. So that was it. That was interesting to me. And I started really putting a lot of my time into learning how I could get in front of people both on Google and Facebook. What were the things that I could do to really leverage those networks that already had the traffic? How could I make sure that I was positioned well with both of those?
Gotcha. So what techniques did you employ as well as Facebook and Google, and how did they work for you?
Well, so, that was the thing. I was looking at Google, I was looking at Facebook, and I was like, what are the vehicles that get me where I need to go with these two things? And so there's really three big things that I focused on. And let me tell you, I didn't start off focusing on these three things, but of everything that I tried, and if you're a brick and mortar business owner like me, and like I was when I first started, you know that you just see a ton of things that you could do. And that's the thing. Out there right now, there's so many things that you can do. There's so many social networks, and there's so many things that you can try. But I really nailed it down to three. And those three that I started with back when I first started are really the three that we get a ton of our business on now. And anybody that asks me what they should be doing, these are the three things that I tell them they should do. Number one, focus on your website. Now, I don't look at a website the way that I think most people look at a website. I think that most people look at a website is, well, I got to have something up, and I'm going to have my cousin design it, or I'm going to design it. I'm going to use, one of the web builders that's out there. And the problem with that I quickly learned is websites typically can be done very poorly, and it can scare away a lot of business. And I think the majority of people that build their own websites, they do it because it's cost effective, right? But the problem is when you build your own website and you don't know what you're doing, you can actually scare people away because the website's your first impression. So one of the things that I really focused on with the website was doing some specific things very, very well. And I can get into that in just a little bit. Also, Facebook posting. I knew that a lot of people were going to my Facebook page, and what showed up on my Facebook page was extremely, extremely important. What came up, and I'll talk about this a little bit too if you want me to, but what showed up on my Facebook page was extremely important. So I had to be very careful about that. Those two things, website and Facebook page, were the things that got new people in the door. The other side, and the thing that I found that was very effective very early on, was how do I get people that have already come in to come back and remind them that I'm here? And that's where we got really into email and sending out a regular newsletter to people on a regular basis. And I can go into that too, if you want me to, as we get going. So those are the three things: really a very specific type of website, a very specific type of Facebook page marketing, and then really focusing on email, specifically newsletters. Those were the big three for me, and really continue to be the big three for me today.
Awesome. So yeah, I would definitely want to dig into those. So let's start with the website. Tell me a little bit about the website stuff that you were doing.
So the website stuff is very interesting. And as I said, there are so many people out there that don't think of a website in terms of what it's supposed to be. They throw up some stuff. They have somebody design it that doesn't really know what they're doing, or they're just getting started. And a website's your first impression. So a website needs to look modern. It needs to look like somebody that designed it is a professional. Because the problem is if a website doesn't look professional, and this is just the tip of the iceberg, by the way, but if a website doesn't look professional, then people start to get an impression that what you do inside of your business isn't professional. And so that's a big one. It's got to look a certain way, right? The other side of it is this: a website. People look at a website and think, well, I've got a web page up. That's not what it is. What your website should be doing is actually funneling people into an action. Everything about that website should be funneling people toward an action. It should be an engine that its sole purpose is to pump people into doing one thing, whether that's picking the phone up and calling your business or actually coming into your business or putting in an email address. But something should be happening that every element of that website should be focusing people down or funneling people down into one core action. Now, of course, there's certain pieces of information that every website should have, like business hours, pictures of the staff, onboarding things. Those things are important, but all of those things really do exist because they're supposed to funnel people into one core action, which is typically one of three things, which is putting an email address in, a box, which is supposed to generate a lead and supposed to generate money. It's getting people to pick the phone up and call, or getting people to actually walk through your front door. And so with the website, that's the key. I went through a lot of things early on. I went through a lot of ups and downs with this, but the key with websites is, and I spent way too much money in the beginning too to get to that, but the key with websites is they have to be built from the ground up to look really, really great so they can showcase that you've got it together, but also to funnel people into one specific action. And that action should be something that makes a business money. And I think far too many websites miss that. So when we finally dialed it in and got it to where it needed to be, that's what our website did. It was very focused on one specific thing. And that's where we started to see our business shoot through the roof.
Awesome. Awesome. So let's go on to the next one. Tell me a little bit about what you were doing on Facebook.
So Facebook, that's where all the traffic is. That's where, a lot of people that have money to spend are spending a lot of their time throughout the day. And even if you see Facebook sort of go up and down with the usage numbers, and with different demographics, you still have a ton of customers. And these are the kinds of customers that are actually spending money. You can get into a lot of things of who's using Facebook these days, but the ones that are actually out there spending money, they're on Facebook. And so with Facebook, what I started to realize is people will have Facebook open and they'll start to think about, hey, I'm kind of looking for this, whether it be a restaurant or a service provider. They actually do look for it on Facebook. The other side is a lot of people will start at a website. So they'll, start at a business's website. Maybe they found them with a Google search. Maybe they had a business card, but they'll start a website and then they'll jump over to a Facebook page because they get a little bit of a different feel for a business. A website's more of a stagnant thing. A Facebook page is seen as more of a living, breathing thing. And anybody that's been on Facebook in the past knows that. And so what we wanted to do on Facebook was pretty simple. We figured out that we had to post content every day. And I tell you, that can be an exhausting thing when you're doing it manually every day and you're having to do it on the fly. But we had to post to Facebook every day. And the idea behind that, and we started to figure out that when we posted every day, people saw that we were active. People saw that we cared. And we really started to understand that was getting people to pick up the phone. When they got on our Facebook page and saw that we had just posted that morning, it let them know that we were here, we were paying attention. And when we had competitors out there that hadn't posted in months, if you stack those two together, you want to do business with the person that has more going on. And that may not be fair. Both offices may be equal. The office that isn't posting on their Facebook page may be a better office, may be a better business at what they do. But the perception from the outside is pretty simple. If you see a Facebook page that's got it together and is active, it seems like that business cares more. And that was important. The other side is the stuff that we were posting on our Facebook page could not be sloppy. It couldn't be stuff we were pulling off of a Google image search. It couldn't be stuff we were just pulling from Pinterest. It had to be stuff that was very both educational about what we were doing, but also it had to look good. It had to have a feel of professionalism. And so as we started dialing this stuff in, we started to realize that when we did that, we were getting people from all over our community coming in and saying, well, I went to your Facebook page actually, and I got a good vibe from it, when we really dig. And so posting on Facebook was a big thing. Having a system to post on Facebook, post the right things on Facebook was absolutely huge for us. You couple that in with what we were doing with our website or our, our sales funnel engine, as I would call it. Then those two things together really gave us an advantage over our competitors when people were looking around for providers like us on the internet.
Awesome. Awesome. So let's jump into the last one, which was the email newsletters. Tell us what you were doing there.
It was crazy. It started off as something that was kind of old school. When I first started, when we needed to, get business up a little bit, we would send out letters, like physical letters. And, that's a lot of work for staff. That is a lot of work and expense. And so to do those things was big. So one day we said, you know what? We've been collecting these email addresses this whole time in our office, which I think a lot of people collect them and don't do anything with them. We've been collecting these emails for a while. We're like, let's try this. Let's actually send out an email to all of our folks that have come in the office before, have come in our business before, and let's see what happens. And so we sent almost the exact same thing that we were sending out in these physical newsletters. And it's funny. Within a couple of minutes of hitting the send button, we had the phones ringing. And the standard thing that we heard across the board was, it's funny. I was just thinking of you the other day, and then I got your email, and it reminded me that I needed to call. And it would be over and over and over again for the next few days. We would hear that from people. And it was just as simple as taking those email addresses, having a newsletter that was not overly hypey or pitchy, but just talking to people that already loved us. And like I said, that's how we started to get a ton of people to come back more often into our business. They needed us anyway. They just, people get busy. They don't think about it. But giving them that little reminder that we were still here and reminding them that they liked us was big. So you couple that with how we were getting new people through the door, and you started to have sort of this engine, this machine that's every single month, every single week, every single day was working to get people through the door. Either they had not been in before, or like I said, with the newsletters, they had been in before and they just needed a little reminder that we were still there. So sending out those newsletters once a month at the very least was big for us because it brought in a ton more business from the people that already liked us and had already been in.
Well, those are all great things. So were there any downsides to the internet marketing side of things?
Yeah, absolutely. The downsides to the internet marketing stuff is when you first start, especially if you're trying to do it yourself, there's a huge learning curve. Like, to understand how to do those three things properly, the website, the Facebook, and the email newsletters, to understand how to do those things properly took us years. And, this is with us being busy. This is with us really, doing a lot of the things that we were trying to do in our office. Besides that, it took us years to really figure out what we were doing with those things. And then on top of all that, it took us a lot of money because of the mistakes we were making to get to where we needed to go. And so, those things kind of stunk. But once you kind of get there, you know what you're doing, you know what's working, and you can keep doing it. But you would think that would be the moment where everything's going great. Not so, unfortunately, because what happens is when you find out what's working, you get into this trap. And the trap is simple. There's work to be done on a website. There's work to be done to post on your Facebook page the right way. There's work to be done to send out those email newsletters. And when you're doing that work, it's hard because it works. And if it works, it means people are coming through the door. So if you're doing it yourself as the owner or the manager, if you've got staff that is, maybe the person that's answering phones and directing traffic in your business, if they're doing the internet work, then they're not able to do the work that happens in the business, picking up the phones as well. Now, here's what's so funny. The internet work gets done and you get busy. So what do you think happens when you start to get busy in your office, in your business, because the internet stuff has worked? Well, you don't have time to do the internet stuff as much anymore. And so all of a sudden, you're busy in your office, you're busy in your business, the internet stuff goes down. And of course, you stop seeing the effectiveness of the internet stuff because you're not doing it anymore. So the big problem was this, is every time we would do the internet stuff really, really well, the stuff we knew how to do, that we'd figured out how to do, we'd get really, really busy. But then we'd get so busy that we couldn't continue to do the internet thing. And so we ran into this really interesting scaling problem. And that was something that was very, very hard for us for a long time, is how do we work this out? How do we fix this scaling problem so that we can keep the internet stuff going, but at the same time, get busier and busier and busier?
Well, let's dig into that a little bit. So what did you do to fix that scaling problem?
So it was funny. There's plenty of people out there that you can hire to do internet work for you. A lot of them know what they're doing. A lot of them don't know what they're doing. The funny thing about the folks that really know what they're doing most of the time is they're extremely extremely expensive, meaning for most brick and mortar business owners, the money just doesn't work out. It was in one of those places to where spending $3,000-$4,000 a month for someone to do this, yes, we would have come out ahead. But at the same time, that was money that was not going into my pocket, or it was not going into the pockets of my staff. It was not going back to invest in improvements in the business. And so even though we had the money to do it because it was effective, it was something that was very hard to wrestle with because that money I thought, could be spent better elsewhere. And so, we looked for a very long time to find a company that could do the things, those three things specifically, really make sure our website was doing what it needed to do, make sure that we had Facebook posts that looked great going up every single day, and making sure that we had our newsletters, going out right, building this machine that just worked all the time. We had a very tough time finding a company that could do those things for us. And we ended up working with finding someone that could do those things. But I'm telling you, it was extremely difficult to find someone that understood what we were doing and could do those things at a high level. And I guess most importantly, at the end of the day, could do it in a way that was extremely cost effective for us. And I think that was the big thing. Most brick and mortar businesses out there, when they hear something like, okay, I understand those three things and how they work, but can I find someone that can do it in a way that's cost effective for us? Most businesses, the answer is no, because they've never seen anybody that can. And so, finding that kind of company for us was really, really special.
Okay. All right. So where does someone go to get help with something like that?
Well, the companies that do this kind of thing and are cost effective for businesses like us are pretty rare. It took us a while to find them. But so when you find someone that can do that, you keep it to yourself because you don't want a lot of competitors to do it. But I think exactly who we're talking about.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. So, Dr. Ben, thank you so much for your time. Is there anything that you want to leave with any of the business owners that might be listening to this?
I think that the key is you got to understand there's so many things you can do out there. There's so many ways you could spend your money. There's so many ways that you could spend your time to grow on the internet, but not all online marketing is created equal. The three things that I talked about have been extremely effective for us. They've been extremely effective for a lot of the businesses that are friends of ours that have, finally figured it out. And that's the thing is it's like having a website that actually acts as a sales funnel to really push people to do what you want them to do when they're ready to sign up with you is huge. Having a Facebook page that's optimized in a way and runs like clockwork every single day, posting great content so that people see that you've got it together and that you know what you're talking about and it brands you as an authority, that's huge. And then, of course, having newsletters go out. Even when we get busy, having a newsletter that goes out to our patients, that's what's so great. Being able to look up and realize that went out without me even having to do it or having to tell the staff member to do it, those things are absolutely huge. And that's the thing. I can't be put into a position, just like most business owners out there can't be put in a position to have staff do that. And the folks that I know that are trying to have staff do those things typically end up failing miserably, or the job that's done just isn't effective because it's not being done at a high level. And so, my advice to anybody out there is get some help. Find someone to do those things. Do those three things specifically, but most importantly, find someone that can actually help you do it. And I think that's the thing. If you find those things and you're doing them on a consistent basis, week after week, month after month, those things turn into a referral here. They turn into a new patient there. And those things every single month start to stack up. And that's what's so great. We started to look up and we started to realize that was turning into 10, 20 new people coming through the door every single month, just from the internet side. We started to understand that we had 25 to 50 return visits from our existing people every single month because of those things. And that was just in the beginning. It grows and grows and grows. So I think that's the key for us is you start to realize that if you do those three things and you don't have staff doing them, meaning you don't have someone that can drop the ball when you get busy, but you've got someone outside of your company doing it and doing it because it's the only thing that they do, they're doing it at a high level. That's when things start to get really, really interesting. So my advice is this. Do those three things. Those three things are, if you've been trying to figure out what to do on the internet, where to spend your time, those are the three things you've got to focus on. But find a company that can do those things for you and turn it into an engine, turn it into a machine that works even while you're sleeping. When you can do that, you can put your business in a very, very good place. And that's when you have marketing going on that happens without you having to drive it, without you having to do it. And that's big.
All right. That's some great advice. Thank you so much.